I still remember those quiet autumn evenings so clearly, like they were wrapped in a soft, golden haze. My name is Elena, and at 48, I thought I had already lived the most important chapters of my life. 5 years had passed since I lost my husband, and the house had settled into a gentle kind of silence. I filled my days with small, familiar things, watering the plants on the windowsill, folding laundry that smelled of lavender, and cooking simple meals that no longer needed to feed two. Mateo, my stepson, had become my only real company. He was 26 now, tall and steady, with that same warm smile his father once had. He lived with me while finishing his studies, always respectful, always kind. In the mornings, I would watch him sip his coffee at the kitchen table, his voice deep and calm as he asked about my day. I told myself it was normal to feel comforted by his presence. After all, we were family. But lately, something had begun to shift inside me, something I tried so hard to ignore. It started with little things, the way his shirt stretched across his shoulders when he reached for something on the top shelf, the gentle sound of his laugh echoing through the hallway, the way he would place a hand lightly on my back when he passed me in the narrow kitchen, just to let me know he was there. Each time, my skin would tingle for a second longer than it should. My heart would give a small, unexpected flutter, and I would quickly look away, scolding myself in silence. I shouldn't notice these things. He was my stepson. I was old enough to know better. Yet at night, when the house grew still and the autumn wind whispered against the windows, I would lie awake, feeling this restless hunger stirring deep within, a warm desire I had no right to feel. I would close my eyes and try to push the thoughts away, but they always returned, tempting and dangerous. One evening, the sky had turned that soft orange pink as the sun dipped low. I was in the living room, curled up with a book I wasn't really reading, when I heard his keys in the door. My body reacted before my mind could catch up, a quick rush of warmth spreading through my chest. I stood up, smoothing my dress, telling myself it was only because I worried about him driving in the growing dark. "Elena, I'm home," he called out, his voice carrying that familiar comfort. I smiled, but inside, my heart was already racing, just a little faster. I knew I shouldn't want his company this much. I knew this quiet longing was wrong. Yet as he stepped into the light, brushing a hand through his hair, I felt it again, that irresistible pull I couldn't quite name. The night air felt heavier than usual, and I wondered how much longer I could keep pretending everything was still normal. The storm arrived without warning that evening, turning the quiet autumn night into something wild and alive. Rain lashed against the windows in heavy sheets, and thunder rolled through the sky, like distant warnings I should have heeded. I was alone in the living room, wrapped in my favorite soft cream robe, the fabric brushing gently against my skin as I sipped warm chamomile tea by the flickering fireplace. The flames danced softly, casting golden shadows across the walls, but they couldn't chase away the restlessness that had been building inside me for weeks. I heard the front door open and the sound of heavy, wet footsteps. Mateo stepped inside, completely soaked from the downpour. His shirt clung to his chest and shoulders, water dripping from his dark hair onto the wooden floor. He looked up at me with those kind eyes, offering a tired but genuine smile that made something deep within me stir unexpectedly. "Elena, sorry I'm so late. The rain caught me on the way back from helping a friend," he said, his voice low and slightly husky from the cold. My body reacted before I could think. A rush of warmth spread through me as I set my tea down and hurried toward him. "You're drenched, Mateo. Come here. Let me help you." I grabbed a thick towel from the linen closet and gently patted his shoulders, feeling the heat of his skin even through the damp fabric. Our hands brushed as I handed him the towel, and that simple touch sent a spark racing up my arm. I pulled back quickly, my cheeks flushing with guilt. I shouldn't want this closeness. He was my stepson. We moved to the fireplace together. He changed into dry clothes while I poured him a hot drink. Sitting across from each other on the couch, the storm raging outside, we began to talk. The conversation flowed easily at first, about his day, my garden, the way the rain made everything feel more intimate. But then he looked at me with such genuine concern and asked, "You've seemed quieter lately. Are you feeling lonely, Elena?" His words caught me off guard. Tears pricked at my eyes as I admitted softly, "Sometimes the nights feel too long, since your father left us." My voice trembled with vulnerability. He leaned closer, his presence so warm and steady. "You're not alone. I'm here. I always will be." In that moment, the air between us thickened. His hand rested near mine on the cushion. When our fingers accidentally touched again, lingering this time, a dangerous heat rose slowly through my body. My heart raced, skin tingling with a forbidden longing I had no right to feel. I shouldn't want his touch like this. I shouldn't crave the way his eyes held mine, soft and understanding. The thunder crashed louder, mirroring the storm awakening inside me. I whispered, almost to myself, I don't know what's happening to me lately. My breath caught as I met his gaze. That irresistible pull was growing stronger, tempting me towards something I knew was wrong, yet felt so achingly right in the quiet firelight. What would happen if I let myself feel this, even for a moment? The following weeks became a beautiful kind of torture I never expected. I tried so hard to keep everything normal, but my body and heart refused to listen. Each morning, I found myself lingering in the kitchen longer than necessary, preparing coffee just the way Matteo liked it, strong with a touch of cinnamon. He would come downstairs, still warm from sleep, his hair slightly tousled, and smile at me in that quiet way that made my pulse quicken. "Good morning, Elena," he would say, his voice deep and gentle, brushing past me to reach for his mug. Sometimes his arm would graze mine, and I would feel that familiar tingle spread across my skin, warm and dangerous. I shouldn't want this. He was my stepson. Yet every time he stood close, helping me reach something on the higher shelf, or leaning over to taste the sauce I was stirring, a restless hunger stirred deeper inside me. In the evenings, after the autumn sun had set and the air grew cool, we started sitting together on the back porch. The wooden swing creaked softly under our weight as we talked about everything and nothing. The scent of fallen leaves and distant rain filled the air. I would wrap myself in a shawl, but nothing could protect me from the way my body reacted when he laughed at something I said. That low, warm sound made heat rise slowly in my chest, spreading downward in gentle waves I tried desperately to ignore. One afternoon, while we were working in the garden together, the sun filtering through the trees, he rolled up his sleeves, revealing the strong lines of his forearms. I caught myself staring, my heart racing with guilty longing. "You've been so good to me, Matteo," I murmured, my voice softer than I intended. He turned, wiping sweat from his brow, and our eyes met. For a moment too long, neither of us looked away. The air felt thicker, charged with something forbidden and tempting. Later that week, during a quiet dinner, our knees accidentally brushed under the table. I didn't pull away immediately. Instead, I let the contact linger, feeling the warmth of him through the fabric. My skin tingled, and a dangerous pull tugged at my heart. I knew I should move, but the craving was becoming harder to resist. "I shouldn't feel this way," I whispered to myself that night in bed, my breath shallow, as memories of his nearness replayed in my mind. The tension kept building in small, irresistible moments. One late evening, after a long day, he offered to massage my tired shoulders. His hands were gentle yet firm, working the knots away while I sat on the couch. Every touch sent sparks through me, warm desire blooming where it had no right to. I closed my eyes, biting my lip to hold back a soft sigh. "That feels so good," I breathed, my voice husky with emotions I couldn't name. He paused for a second, his fingers lingering, and I wondered if he could feel how my body trembled under his care. As the days passed, the forbidden longing grew stronger. I found myself dressing with more care, choosing blouses that draped softly against my curves, hoping he might notice. When he did, his gaze lingering just a moment longer than usual, my heart would race with a mix of guilt and thrilling excitement. "This is dangerous," I told myself, yet I couldn't stop the craving. The way he looked at me during our late-night talks on the porch, the protective way he checked if I was warm enough, the gentle way he said my name. Everything pulled me closer to the edge. One stormy night, as rain pattered against the windows, we watched an old movie together. The room was dimly lit, and I felt his shoulder brush mine on the couch. I didn't move away. Instead, I leaned in slightly, letting the warmth of his body comfort me. My skin tingled with anticipation, a restless hunger making it hard to focus on the screen. "Matteo," I started to say, but the words caught in my throat. What was I doing? This irresistible pull was becoming too strong, too tempting. I knew I was playing with fire, but the flame felt so alive, so inviting. Every shared glance, every accidental touch, every quiet conversation deepened the conflict inside me. I lay awake at night, my body aching with a warm, forbidden desire I had no right to feel for my stepson. Yet the more I fought it, the more it consumed me. How much longer could I pretend this was nothing? How long before the tension finally broke? The storm had returned that evening, fierce and unrelenting, cutting the power just as the sky darkened completely. Candles flickered softly throughout the house, casting warm, golden pools of light that danced across the walls and made everything feel more intimate, more dangerous. Rain hammered against the roof and windows, creating a steady rhythm that matched the racing beat of my heart. I sat on the living room couch in my soft robe, the fabric whispering against my skin with every small movement, while Mateo moved quietly around the room, checking the candles. The air felt thick with unspoken words. We had been talking for hours, about loss, about the empty spaces in our lives, about how loneliness could creep in so quietly. My voice trembled as I spoke of the nights that stretched too long, of missing connection, of feeling unseen. Mateo listened with that steady presence of his eyes never leaving mine. The candlelight softened his features, highlighting the gentle curve of his jaw and the warmth in his gaze. Then the words slipped out before I could stop them, my breath shaky and vulnerable. Mateo, there's something I need to tell you, something I've been carrying for so long. I paused, my heart pounding so loudly I was sure he could hear it. My hands twisted in my lap as a warm flush rose through my body. I've been feeling things I shouldn't, for you. A forbidden longing that keeps pulling me closer, even when I know it's wrong. I braced myself for shock, for him to pull away, for the gentle rejection I deserved. But he didn't move. His eyes softened with understanding, and something deeper flickered there, something that mirrored the restless hunger inside me. The silence stretched between us, charged and tempting, broken only by the rain and the soft crackle of a candle. Elena, he whispered, his voice low and husky, sending a shiver across my skin. Slowly, he reached out, his fingers brushing my cheek with such tenderness that my breath caught. The touch was feather-light, yet it ignited a wave of warmth that spread through me like honey, slow and irresistible. My body reacted instantly, skin tingling, heart racing faster, a dangerous heat rising from deep within. I shouldn't want this. He was my stepson. Yet in that moment, with the world reduced to candlelight and storm, nothing had ever felt more right. He didn't pull away. Instead, his thumb traced a gentle path along my jaw, his gaze holding mine with quiet intensity. I leaned into his touch, my eyes fluttering closed for a brief second as a soft sigh escaped my lips. The air between us grew warmer, heavier, with the weight of years of hidden longing finally spoken. My fingers found his hand, resting there hesitantly, feeling the steady pulse beneath his skin. Every nerve seemed alive, singing with this new, forbidding closeness. We stayed like that for what felt like an eternity, his hand on my cheek, mine holding his, the candles flickering as if they too held their breath. No rush, no demands, just this tender crossing of a line we both knew existed. The pull was magnetic, dangerous, and achingly romantic. I whispered his name again, my voice breathy and full of emotion. Mateo, I'm scared, but I can't deny this anymore. He answered with the softest smile, his forehead resting gently against mine. The contact sent another rush of tingling warmth through my body, making my breath come in shallow waves. In the quiet glow, surrounded by the storm, I felt seen, desired, and terrifyingly alive. This first crossing wasn't loud or hurried. It was slow, sensory, filled with the kind of vulnerable intimacy that made my soul tremble. Yet even as joy and guilt swirled inside me, the heat continued to build, tempting me further into this beautiful unknown. My body craved more of his nearness, more of this dangerous connection. What had I just started? And how much longer could we resist the irresistible pull, drawing us even closer? The candlelight continued to flicker softly around us, casting gentle shadows that seemed to embrace the moment we had just shared. My heart was still racing, each beat echoing the confession that had finally slipped from my lips. I sat there, close to Mateo, feeling the lingering warmth of his hand against my cheek and the tender way his forehead had rested against mine. A mix of overwhelming relief and deep, aching guilt washed over me like the rain still falling outside. I couldn't believe I had said it out loud. My forbidden desire for him, my stepson, was no longer a secret hidden in the quiet hours of the night. Yet instead of pulling away, he had stayed. He hadn't rejected me. That simple truth sent a fresh wave of warm desire blooming through my body, making my skin tingle with a dangerous kind of excitement I had no right to feel. We remained on the couch, the storm softening into a steady drizzle that pattered gently against the windows. His hand slowly lowered, but not before his fingers brushed down my arm in the lightest caress, leaving trails of heat in their wake. I shivered softly, letting out a small, vulnerable sigh. "I'm sorry, Matteo," I whispered, my voice breathy and trembling with emotion. "I shouldn't want this. I know it's wrong, but when you didn't pull away, it felt like everything inside me came alive." He looked at me with those kind, understanding eyes, a gentle smile touching his lips. "Elena, you don't have to apologize for how you feel," he said quietly, his tone low and reassuring, wrapping around me like a warm embrace. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, the air between us now charged with a new tenderness. Every small shift brought us a little closer, our knees touching, my shoulder brushing his. Each contact sent sparks of tingling warmth through me, reminding me of the irresistible pull that had been building for so long. As the candles burned lower, I felt a quiet shift in our dynamic. The way he looked at me had changed, lingering glances filled with a soft, mutual longing that made my breath catch. There was a new protectiveness in his voice when he asked if I was cold, and when I nodded, he reached for the throw blanket and draped it carefully over both of us, his arm resting lightly behind me on the couch. I leaned into the comfort, my body reacting with a slow, delicious heat that spread through my chest and lower, making me acutely aware of every inch of space between us. Guilt still whispered in the back of my mind, but it was drowned out by the exhilarating rush of being truly seen. For the first time in years, I felt desired in a way that was both romantic and dangerously tempting. My fingers found his again under the blanket, intertwining hesitantly. The simple touch made my pulse quicken, a restless hunger stirring once more. I knew we had crossed a line, but sitting here in the afterglow of my confession, with his quiet acceptance surrounding me, it felt like the most natural, beautiful mistake. "What does this mean for us now?" I asked softly, my voice barely above a whisper, filled with vulnerability and quiet hope. He didn't answer right away, but the way his thumb gently stroked the back of my hand told me everything I needed to know in that moment. The warmth inside me continued to rise, tempting and forbidden, leaving me both scared and wonderfully alive. In the quiet hours that followed, as the rain eased, I realized the aftermath wasn't just relief. It was the beginning of something deeper, a new chapter filled with longing glances, gentle touches, and the constant, thrilling knowledge that he hadn't pulled away. My body still hummed with the memory of his nearness, craving more, even as my mind wrestled with what we had done. How could something so wrong feel this irresistibly right? The rain had softened to a gentle whisper against the windows, but inside my chest, the storm still raged. I lay in my bed later that night, the house wrapped in darkness, except for the faint glow of a single candle on the nightstand. My heart hadn't slowed since the confession. Every beat carried the memory of Matteo's gentle touch on my cheek, the way his forehead had rested against mine, and the quiet understanding in his eyes when he didn't pull away. I pulled the soft sheets closer around me, but they offered no comfort against the warm desire still humming through my body. My skin tingled wherever he had touched me, as if his fingers had left invisible traces of heat. I closed my eyes and let out a slow, shaky breath, whispering to the empty room, "What have I done?" The forbidden longing I had carried for so long was no longer hidden. It was out in the open, raw and vulnerable, and instead of rejection, I had received something far more dangerous: acceptance. That thought sent another rush of tingling warmth through me, making my breath come faster. I shouldn't feel this excited. I shouldn't be lying here craving more of his nearness. He was my stepson, yet the memory of his voice, low and tender, kept replaying in my mind, pulling me deeper into this irresistible temptation. Then I heard it, soft footsteps in the hallway, moving slowly toward my bedroom door. My body reacted instantly. My pulse quickened, a fresh wave of heat rising through my chest. I sat up slightly, clutching the sheet to me, ears straining in the quiet night. The footsteps stopped right outside my door. Silence. My heart hammered so loudly, I was sure he could hear it. I bit my lip, torn between fear and a dangerous, thrilling excitement. Part of me wanted to call out, to invite him in, while another part whispered that this was crossing too far, too fast. The air felt thick with anticipation, every second stretching endlessly. A soft knock echoed through the room, gentle, hesitant, but unmistakable. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. My mind raced with questions I couldn't silence. What does he want right now? Is he feeling the same restless hunger? Will I have the strength to resist, or the courage to let this forbidden desire take us further? I stared at the door, my body alive with tingling sensations and warm, aching longing. The knock came again, even softer this time, like a question only I could answer. With trembling fingers, I reached toward the edge of the bed, my voice barely a whisper in the darkness. Matteo. The silence that followed felt heavier than the storm itself. My heart raced with fearful hope as I wondered what would happen if I opened that door, and how far this dangerous romantic pull would take us before the morning light. Total words, 222.